We're here at the office of Factory, one of the hottest AI startups in the Valley right now, with Matan Grinberg, who is the co-founder and CEO. Matan, such a pleasure to talk to you. And of course, today is your second day in this brand new office. How exciting is that?
Very exciting. I'm honored that you're here on the second day. It's a pleasure to meet you.
We're so excited to see what's going on here, the energy in the Valley, the kind of startups that are coming out, and you know, just what you're building. Explain to our viewers back home in India, you are building autonomous AI agents for software engineering. Simplify it, break it down, and tell us why this is game-changing.
Yeah, so I mean, at a high level, what we're doing is we're automating the things that engineers don't want to do.
Yeah.
You know, engineers are some of the smartest, best systems thinkers in the world. Yet, for the last 30 years, they've had to spend their time doing such low-leverage work like writing documentation or spending hours in, triage meetings about, what features should we ship or how do we resolve this incident. And it's not really the highest leverage use of these incredibly smart engineers' time. And so what we're building at Factory is a system that kind of automates those low-leverage tasks,
right,
so they can focus on the things that matter more for their business, whether it's making the key decisions, building the kind of nuanced features that require really deep understanding of customers to figure out,
right,
or the key systems design decisions. Like, these are the things that engineers enjoy doing. It's what they're best at, and that's what we want to enable.
And you call them droids, is that correct?
We call them droids, that's
yes,
right.
Yes, and droids is obviously making quite a wave here in terms of how different they are, and we'll talk a little more about how different these agents are from some of your other competitors, but I have to talk to you about your journey.
Yep.
You're what, 28?
That's right.
You started Factory about 3 years ago.
Yes.
But tell us about that journey from, giving up your research in string theory and theoretical physics by just cold emailing a Sequoia Capital partner. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Bay Area, but didn't do anything related to startups. I was obsessed with theoretical physics and string theory in particular. Ended up coming to Berkeley to do my PhD, and it was only really after about 10 years of doing that I realized maybe I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
Okay.
And so while at Berkeley, ended up exploring and switching over into AI research and just really falling in love.
Yeah.
In particular with code generation.
Right.
Machine learning and AI to enable code to write itself.
Yeah.
After a year doing that at Berkeley, I realized that the best way to solve that problem was not through academia, but rather through working in the industry, working with some of the largest enterprises. And to do that, you have to start a company.
Yeah.
Now, I knew absolutely nothing about starting a company. I'd never had a job before. And so I did what anyone would do and went on YouTube and looked up how to start a company.
Wow,
and,
you actually did that. You went on YouTube
Yes.
and you Googled,
Yes.
like you literally went on YouTube and said how to start a company.
Yes, that's right.
And what's the advice you got?
And so, a lot of, Y Combinator videos and all that. But
Yeah.
then I stumbled upon this video interview with this guy whose name I recognized back from the physics world because I had cited him in one of my papers.
Sean
McGuire.
Right.
But it turned out that he had similarly been a theoretical physicist, but then went and started a company, sold it for $1 billion to Palo Alto Networks.
Correct.
And joined Sequoia and was a partner there. And so it was just, there was so much in common. I was like, I would love to learn from him.
Yeah.
So I ended up finding his email and
you sent him a cold email.
Sent him a cold email.
And what, you got a response back?
Got a response back, and then the next day we ended up going for a 3-hour walk down in Menlo Park.
Yeah.
Got along really well, and basically at the end, he was like, you need to drop out of your PhD. And you should either join Twitter right now because Elon just took over and it's kind of hardcore to go there, or you should start a company.
Okay, so you got those two pieces of advice.
Yes.
Actually, three.
Yeah.
Number one is drop your PhD, and that he was very sure about,
Yes,
Sean.
that's right.
But the two options he gave you was either join Twitter or start your own company, and you chose the latter.
Yes, that's right. I mean, because in the back of my mind, I knew, wanted to do Factory, but I didn't want to ruin that meeting with like a pitch at the end of it. So I was like, okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go think about it. But meanwhile, it was, there's only one option.
And as they say, the rest is history.
That's
and then that was 3 years ago. And today you are at your Series C, which was what, a whopping 150 million?
Yes, that's right.
And that values you at about $1.5 billion Factory. Fascinating growth. And you're already talking about growth that is looking mind-boggling in today's times. Share with us how the last few months have been or how this year has panned out for you.
Yeah, I mean, just growth on all aspects has been crazy. From a revenue perspective, we've 10x'd, more than 10x'd since the beginning of the calendar year, which is crazy. We also, we started the year with about 20 people. Now in this new office, we have about 120.
And that's just in 6 months.
Just in
Less
6
than 6 months,
yes.
yeah. Wow.
And really the important thing there, though, is not, headcount for headcount's sake, but more that there's just so much demand from our customers. There are so few solutions out there that are really focused on kind of nitty gritty of the enterprise.
Yeah.
Not just the solo developers vibe coding things, but the unsexy like grunt work that happens in these enterprises. And that's what we go and do. And we spend a lot of time with these enterprises with genuine curiosity about their business and how they build software and how we can help, bring a software factory to their business so that they can produce better software, serve their users' needs, and like move the needle for their business instead of just producing more code.
You're saying this is largely unsexy grunt work, but in many ways it was being done by somebody. So are we really now talking about truly job displacement that is a reality with AI agents like yours coming and doing that grunt work?
So I think there are two important things here. So on one hand, in the long term, I actually think engineers will be more important than ever, despite what some other people might be saying.
Yeah.
And we know that this is true because if you think about the world, there's a very large number of problems in the world. I think most people would agree with that.
Yeah.
And a large subset of those problems can be solved with software.
Right.
And only a small subset of those are currently being solved with software.
Right.
So there are many unsolved problems that we could solve with software. Now, if we give every engineer more leverage, that means that every engineer can solve more problems faster. Now, in the short term, you might need fewer people to solve any given problem. So in the short term, there probably will be some displacement, which I think we shouldn't kind of understate. It is a big deal.
Sure.
But I think long term, it means we will allocate some of the best problem solvers to the most important problems that are not being solved, which I think is a net good for the world.
Yeah.
So I'm very, bullish long term. I think short term, though, it is important that we kind of figure out how to navigate these situations where there certainly will be companies that have fewer engineers. We need to make sure that we can, as quickly as possible, figure out where's the best place to use, like from an economic perspective, where's the best place for them to now be going and doing work to solve problems.
And clearly you will be hiring engineers. And I think what you're alluding to is that essentially there's a lot of rethinking, rewiring, and it's just a different orientation in terms of the tasks those engineers are going to be doing.
Yes.
Share with us your plans in terms of hiring, and that will bring me to India as well. India is a big talent pool in terms of software engineers.
Yeah.
At the same time, we also know that everyone's talking about India's IT services sector that will need to be reimagined again, because for the longest time, India's had this large IT software services sector that is clearly undergoing a lot of pain in the AI world.
Yeah.
Share with us how you're seeing the India play.
Yeah, so I mean, from one perspective, it's really important for us just to go to Asia broadly, and in particular India, because there are a lot of great companies there. I think also, as it relates to the IT services, I think they're actually some of the businesses that could, in theory, be helped the most from some of this technology, because there are some companies where you could argue producing more software doesn't necessarily move the needle for their business.
Yeah.
Like some banks, maybe they don't need to produce as much software as possible. Maybe for them, there are different things that matter. Now, for the IT services company, their business is almost exactly how much software can you produce and how good is it. And so tools like Factory enable them to produce more software better and faster. And so it kind of allows them to deliver on their value to their customers. Now, I think the important thing is making sure that they can expand the customers that they're serving and deepen those relationships. And that ends up being part of the human side of it as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of businesses where the direct output is how much software you can produce, in theory, this should help them the most.
Yeah. When you're selling to enterprise, are you seeing that you're tending to solve common problems, or you're realizing that some of those problems are very customized? And share with us some of the experiences you've had with large enterprise customers and what it means selling to them at this point in time when everyone's still understanding the real potential of AI and what AI can do.
Sure. I mean, I think there are a lot of common threads in terms of the general workflows that people want to solve for.
Yeah.
But every organization has such nuanced details about exactly how they do different things. But generally, the kind of mentality is, what are the lowest leverage things our engineers are spending time on, and how can we make it such that they don't need to spend time on that, and they can spend time on things that are more important? So examples of this are things like legacy migrations, like COBOL, mainframe. These are things that no engineer wants to do. The business knows they need to get it done, but it's like painstaking, takes forever. It's not, the most enjoyable, but typically it's kind of a barrier because you can't do certain things until you do such a migration. So that's one example. Other examples are, things like documentation.
Sure.
Things like code review, things like testing. These are things that you can really get a lot of leverage by using AI agents. We see a lot of customers getting a lot of value using Factory to do these things, but the nuanced details differ customer by customer because everyone has their own languages, their own tools that they use, their own history of, especially the older the company, the more history, the more kind of fragmented these things are. And so, our engineering and customer teams spend a lot of time making sure that it's tailored for their exact needs.
I want to specifically ask you about the debate around valuations. We've just seen a company very similar to what you're doing, Cursor, get acquired at a whopping valuation. Share with us your thoughts on whether the concerns around many of the valuations being stretched are real and are, fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think, they had a very incredible business, like billions in revenue over a very short period of time. I think it just reflects the degree to which people are very bullish on the software category.
Yeah.
And I think it also reflects a broader reality, which is there are so many problems that can be cast as software problems. And I think that's kind of reflected in these valuations where there are many things that previously weren't done by traditional software engineers that can actually be subsumed by software engineers, or people who previously weren't software engineers will be creating more software. And so I think we see this dynamic emerge because the pie is growing so quickly for how much software there is to be done. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. There are so many problems that can be solved with software, and the world is just now realizing, the extent to which we can do that, and these tools are making it even easier to solve those problems.
Fair, but at the same time today, when you're seeing that real growth, when you're talking about the kind of explosive growth that is happening, you do think that whether it is the investments or it is the valuations, those are justified.
Yeah, I mean, because also you could say the valuations are crazy, but also the revenue growth is crazy and unprecedented.
Right.
Like us 10xing in 6 months is completely unheard of, like 3 years ago.
Yes.
But now it's not even that crazy. Like there are crazier things that are happening, and so I think it seems like everything is ratcheting it up, both the valuations and the speed with which companies are growing.
But is this a bubble? Is the question everybody is asking.
I think it's so clear to me that it is not. It's so clear to me that there's so much value to get out of these tools, and the demand just keeps skyrocketing. Now, I think the way that the demand is distributed among closed models and open source models might change, but the demand for intelligence via API, that is going nowhere.
Matan, the demand is real, the growth is real, and you clearly now have money in the bag, right, for that expansion. Share with us how you're viewing a company like yours, all of 3 years old, but truly game-changing in the way you are reimagining software engineering. How are you thinking of your global expansion plans? Which are the markets that excite you right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing is our customers are basically any company that has engineers.
Yeah.
And lots of companies around the world have engineers, and I think the problems that engineers face are actually very similar no matter where in the world you are.
Yeah.
And so from our perspective, being a worldwide company, serving customers across the world is non-negotiable. That's something that we absolutely need to do. Now, we have an obviously very established presence in the United States. We've already started building out our team in Europe. I think Asia and the Pacific is generally something that we're devoting a lot of resources to. So India, Japan, Singapore.
So you've mentioned Asia and India in particular. Are we going to be seeing you in India? Are you excited about expanding to the Asian markets? And what's your view on India?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've never been, but I've heard fantastic things. So many of our customers, so many of our team.
You do already have large enterprise customers out of India.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Would you like to name a few?
Yeah, so EY, Wipro, Palo Alto Networks. These are some of the big examples. But to me, it's crazy. I've never been there in my life before, so I'm very eager.
You've never been to Asia? Oh, wow. And you're going to be now taking this company that is obviously expanding globally and looking at the Asian market. Matan, I know at this stage, you had clearly not imagined this 3 years ago. At this stage, it'll be very hard for you to do any crystal ball gazing.
Sure.
But let's try and understand where we're headed in terms of software engineering, in terms of the future. Is there a sense of where this is going, where this is likely to be 3 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, I think 3 years from now, we'll be in a world where the software that we engage with is just at a much higher bar of quality. I don't know if there are similar examples in India, but in the United States, one of the worst cases of software is at the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, where if you have to go renew your driver's license, it is possibly the worst experience imaginable. We don't need to live like that.
Yeah.
There are places, maybe thus far it hasn't attracted the best engineering talent, and that's why maybe the software is lagging. I think a world 3 years from now where Factory delivers on its mission, we will be able to have incredible software at both the DMV as well as the biggest tech companies in the world. And that's something that we're really excited to deliver on.
As we wrap up, I have to come back to your journey as a founder and some lessons, some advice from your journey, which is rather recent, 3 years only, but definitely very, very fascinating. Tell us a little more about your co-founder, and the two of you again met at a hackathon. So you were on this hackathon circuit. So tell us a little more about many of those aspiring founders who are probably in your shoes right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So funny enough, we met at a hackathon the day after I went on that walk with Sean.
Wow.
Which was
serendipity then.
Truly serendipity. We joke that it was like intellectual love at first sight. Because we saw each other.
Intellectual love at first sight.
Yeah, that's right. Because we saw each other from across the room. We'd actually gone to college together.
Yeah.
But we had never met really one-on-one. But we recognized each other.
Oh, okay.
And so we went and we were speaking, and then it turned out that we were both interested in this exact same problem. And then we both got along extremely well. The next day we just spent like 24 hours building a demo, a factory together. And it was one of those things, I know there are a lot of people who think about like co-founder dating or how do you figure out the right person to start a company with.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where it wasn't even a question. It was just, we just started
you
working
just
together.
knew
And it was,
And the walk with Sean had already happened, so you went back to him, the demo was ready, he was convinced, and factory started.
Yeah.
And here you are today.
Exactly.
Any advice to founders, especially those who think twice before cold emailing any VC?
I guess the advice that I always give is, if people ask me if they should start a company, I always say don't. Because if me saying no would make you not do it, then you definitely shouldn't do it. Right? It needs to be something that you are going to do no matter what, and it's so non-negotiable. And then what I say doesn't even matter. Because I think that's the kind of like obsession and intensity that you need to do it.
Is this intense? Is what you're doing intense? How do you feel today as a founder who's clearly obsessed with that problem solving, but also in an environment which is wildly different from what anybody could have imagined?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely intense, and it feels like it would be wrong to not do it in an intense manner because of how ambitious the problem that we're solving is. But having an office with the smartest people I've ever met makes it so rewarding. There's nothing more satisfying than working very intensely with a group of the smartest, most talented people that I've ever met. And so on the day, and of course there are lows, when you have those lows, but the people around you are
they
at
lift
the highs,
you up.
It's so satisfying. It's such a privilege.
Matan, it's a privilege to talk to you, to meet you, and to see what you're building. And I think these are the kind of stories that make us believe that AI is truly changing the world. And we're in the midst of a transformative technology that looks very different from what the world has seen. But wishing you the very best. Hope to see you in India soon, and all the best with all your India expansion plans.
Thank you so much.
And global plans as well.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Matan. Thank you.